Is Bo Bichette the hottest hitter in baseball? Quick, Ben, go.
Yes.
Correct. Locked On Blue Jays starts right now.
You are Locked On Blue Jays, your daily Toronto Blue Jays podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Friday app. Get pumped, Ben. Thanks for making Locked On Blue Jays your first. See, that was a good. See, I can sing. I'm telling you, I can sing. This is Locked On Blue Jays. Thanks for making. Stop giggling. I'm trying to get through this read. All right, this is your. Thanks for making it your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get podcasts. And today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. Who's your MVP of this series, in which they just lost the last game 11-0?
But they won the series, and my MVP, who helped them get there, is right-handed pitcher Jose Barrios. He was one of two starters to have really, really good. I mean, three starters. Alec Manoah was good too. One of three starters to have really good performances. But obviously, you expect a little more out of Stripling and Manoah. And we had talked about how important the opener of the series was to get a win before you go into the doubleheader. And Barrios pitched really well. He's a little bit rolling. He went 6 1/3, only gave up 2 runs, and only one of them was earned, and kept the ball in the ballpark. So for the most part. So that's what you want to see. Jose Barrios game 1 win really sets them up to have a good avenue toward the series win, because they only needed 2 more wins out of Guzman, Stripling, Manoah. So I find his pitching performance to be the most important. And because of that, Jose Barrios is my MVP.
I've been kind of following it, but I think Barrios has led the AL in homers given up and earned runs allowed
for a while,
pretty much all year. But I'm just looking at it now. Home runs is I almost said celebrated, separated by only 1. Cole is second, Garrett Cole, Robbie Ray third, and it's 27 and 26 respectively. So he's kind of right there. Just stop giving up home runs, Jose. But it is kind of what he does. But hey, good for him. He gets an MVP under his belt. He's probably an avid listener of the podcast, so he'll enjoy that.
Yeah, really listens a lot.
Yeah. All right, my MVP is none other than Bo Bichette. 9 hits this series. He had a homer, 4 ribbies, scored 2 runs. The dude's just on a tear. I mean, he is just undeniable right now. Nobody should pitch to him. He was my hype train, but I can't really dunk that one because sure, it's all right, I took the hot player. But hey, I'll take it nonetheless. It's kind of like every time you kind of hit Mountcastle, it's kind of a sure thing. You don't really have to worry about it. But Bo, he is my MVP. What was your storyline?
My storyline is that you survived the war. It's not fun to go into a 5-game series with, 5 games coming within a span of about 72 hours. If you map it out, I know it's 4 days, but from start of the first game to start of the 5th game, and they got through it. They won the series by a game. They are now up on the Rays. It wasn't always pretty. The 2 losses were not pretty at all. But when you play the Rays, you just got to make sure you beat them no matter what, because they're so difficult to close against, and they're really, really pesky. So to get through that, I know it's the time where every series is the most important series. I mean, I could at least argue probably that this past series is slightly more important than this upcoming series. But this could go down as one of the more important series of the year, because if the Rays beat you 4 out of 5 or something like that, you're right back on the brink again. And you have no shot at the Yankees. Now, they still don't really have a shot at the Yankees, but you have absolutely none if you lose the series. So good on them to win the series. To get the chance at a tiebreaker back within 2, back within reach 2 is a big thing. They're down 2 games, I want to say, in the season series to the Rays. So it's not easy, but they have a 4-gamer coming up against the Rays, and everything this year is decided by tiebreakers. So to get the tiebreaker back within reach a little bit is nice, and we'll see if that ends up being a factor going forward.
I think it's also really important to realize that this series could have tanked chances at being a higher seed in the playoffs.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, if they lost 5 games here, which was kind of out of the realm of possibility, but losing is really never, because you're always worried about it. But them having come out of this series on top, by even if it's by half a game, I think is like huge. Massive. Okay, well, my storyline is a little bit similar to yours, but it's more, I guess, critical of the 5-game itself. They should be illegal. I never want to watch a 5-game series ever again. They're brutal. I mean, it felt like they were playing all week because they kind of were, even though it was only 4 days, 5 games in 4 days. It still was just brutal. And maybe it's just because I hate watching the Rays play baseball, but their gross uniforms and stuff. At least it wasn't at the Trop. That would have been terrible.
Yeah, that would be brutal.
But still.
It's the second 5-gamer between the Rays and Jays at the Rogers Center. And yeah, it felt like they were nonstop playing because they go night game to start the series, day game, night game, game 2. Then they actually do get basically 20 hours off before the next night game. And then they play day game after a night game. So crazy condensed 5-game series, obviously caused by a multitude of factors with a postponement and partially the lockout delaying the season, which has offered fewer dates to make up stuff. So it was between that and clogging up a mutual off day, which is never fun. But yeah, it's not fun. It's not fun to play 5-gamers, especially against the Rays. I mean, I guess it feels a little bit like a DS playoff series, but if it were a DS playoff series, the Jays would have advanced after the 4th game because they won 3 out of the first 4. So it's weird. Do you hate 5-gamers or 2-gamers more?
That's a good question. I
hate a 2-gamer because the 2-gamers split. They split so often.
And I don't like calling them sweeps. It's not a sweep.
That's what I was going to say. They split so often. When they don't split, it doesn't feel like a true sweep.
I don't like 2-gamers. Honestly, I probably prefer 5-gamers.
Yeah, I think so too. But neither are great.
No.
Make everything 3 and 4 games. How about that? But they're not gonna. They're not gonna.
All right. You got anything else?
No, but I'm excited for what we're doing next.
Yeah, next we're going to be talking best possible Blue Jays lineup all Latin team. It was Roberto Clemente Day, celebrating the greatest Latin player of all time. We will talk about who are the greatest Latin Blue Jays ever to suit up on the other side of this break. BetOnline.net is your number one source for all your pro and college football betting needs and sports info this season. Find all of the latest football league developments, game matchups, news, and podcasts, including this year's opening weeks, week 2, week 3, every week's games. BetOnline is also your continued source for all your sporting wagering information, including live betting, esports, and scores. The fastest and easiest way to check in on all your favorite sports and events, including MLB, MMA, boxing, and golf. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. Bet online, where the game starts.
All Latin lineup time. Roberto Clemente Day, as Bones mentioned before the break, happened on Thursday. It was cool to see different players sporting 21. If you're wondering why all the Rays wore it while only some of the Jays wore it, there actually are qualifications to wear it. We won't get into that, but the Rays, it was it's for Latin players and Roberto Clemente award winners and nominees, as far as I understand it.
Interesting.
So
kind of weird though.
Bo Bichette is the nominee currently for the Blue Jays, so he wore it. George Springer from Connecticut, but his mom is from Puerto Rico, so he wore it. And then some other places or some other people wore it as well. The Rays trotted out. It was really cool. This half of the inspiration for it. The Rays trotted out an all Latin lineup, 1 through 9. Every single player was from Latin America for the Rays in the finale. So the Jays, a notoriously good Latin American team. One time in the Dominican Republic, I had a stranger hug me because I was wearing a Blue Jays hat.
Really?
Yeah. In the 80s, it was all Blue Jays. It was just I was walking into a hotel and he was like, he was working for the hotel and he was at the door and he was like, Blue Jays? And I was like, Blue Jays. And then he hugged me. And it was cool. I liked it. But the Blue Jays and the Dodgers and the Padres a bit too, pretty notorious early on in the, kind of big waves of Latin American players making waves. were in on it. So reconstructed lineups. There are some controversies. We're going to try and make one lineup together, although we each have made lineups on our own. And they're, whether it's how long a guy played, positional, like what position are we counting him or whatever, you're going to get mad at us. And we've accepted that. But we don't care. All right, let's go. I'm going to start no DH, no reliever, pitcher, and then all other 8 defensive positions.
You want to say every single one at the same time?
No. Let's go back and forth. I'll say my pitcher, you say your pitcher.
But then we could see if we agree. It would be suspenseful.
All right, fine. Ready, pitcher,
ready?
In 3.
But the only thing that's going to be bad about this is that there's a little bit of latency, so it's going to be
that's why I didn't want to do
2. All right, we won't do it then. We'll go back and forth.
My pitcher is Juan Guzman. Who is your pitcher?
My pitcher is also Juan Guzman. See, it would have been great if we were 3-2-1 and we both went Juan Guzman.
This is the obvious choice. It would have been great, but the internet has prevented us. Juan Guzman in 92 was an all-star with one of the best single seasons the Jays have ever had at a 2.64 ERA. He later won the ERA title for the Jays in 96 with a 2.93 ERA. There really wasn't a question about this one, I think. He is a native of the Dominican Republic. He actually was a Ray as well, so that's interesting. A Devil Ray. But yeah, he's the obvious choice at pitcher. I didn't even really – there was no competition for me. Did you see anyone that you really competed with?
No, I mean, not really.
He's top 10 in WAR in Jays history, I think.
I wanted to, maybe give my guy Ricky Romero a shout-out, but Juan Guzman's better. What's interesting, honestly, Ricky maybe could have done it. It could have been Ricky, potentially, but I don't know. I want Juan Guzman. The interesting thing to me about Juan Guzman is he must have sent Blue Jays fans on a crazy, people must have been shook about him because he comes up and he's insane. First 2 seasons, he's insane. They win a World Series, 2 World Series back-to-back with him. Second season, he's still good by everybody in the 90s standards. He was 14-3 despite a nearly 4 ERA. And then in 94, he was awful. And then in 95, he was awful. So they're probably what's this guy doing? We're paying him how much? $1 million? And then he was oh, I'm still good, by the way. Yeah. And he was sick in 96. And then he was bad again. Yeah. And they were he's going to get better. And then he didn't.
But he was great. He's easily
the
pitcher. All right, your turn, catcher.
Catcher for me, this is going to be our first debate. I'm going Alejandro Kirk. I'm going the Mexican meatball. I love this man. I will not back down. Alejandro Kirk is the best Latin catcher the Jays have ever had.
It's a thin pool. Let's let people know. The real contenders outside of Kirk, the Molina brothers, not named Yadier, and Deoner Navarro. And if we're missing one, I'm sorry, but we searched high and low and could not find one. I went with Benji Molina. He only played 1 year, but he was phenomenal in his 1 season as a J57 OPS, one of the better seasons of his entire career, and is known to be a really, really good defensive catcher. Now, I don't know. 1 year for Molina, but Kirk's played sub 200 games. So I don't know how much that really works against Molina.
Okay, he'll have played more than 200 games when the season's over. He's 4 away.
He'll have played he'll have played well, he didn't play today.
Okay, he's 5 away.
He'll have played 212. It won't be Gillis.
All right, but he's gonna play way more. All right, he's gonna be a J for a while. Hopefully, I think you got to give it to Kirk over a guy who, if you could qualify for he was a Blue Jay, you shouldn't count.
All right, fine. I'll give it to Kirk. Kirk will be our catcher. So our pitcher is Guzman. I got to make sure I have these down. Kirk is our catcher. On to first base, where I do think there's some legitimate debates. But there's only one guy that I had a half rubber duck bobblehead of as a kid. My first baseman is Carlos Delgado.
Same.
Yeah, I think it's pretty far and away Delgado. Edwin Encarnacion's his main contender, and Vlad, if you want to count him. But, I mean, as a Blue Jay, Delgado with multiple 40-homer seasons, hit 40 homers 3 times and 30 homers every year from 97 to 2004, his last year as a Jay. One of the highest WAR Blue Jays of all time. I mean, it's got to be Delgado, right? Like, Edwin is close.
I think so.
But he's just not there, I think.
He's not Carlos Delgado.
No.
Delgado was so good. Like, that guy was insane. I think you got to go Carlos. He also was just like trudged through those ugly hat days where they had that weird logo. So you got to give him some credit for that too.
Yeah, it's Delgado at first. Second base about to come up, and I will hand it to Bones in a moment. There's an obvious choice at second base, potentially. We have decided not to make that choice. And that's all we'll say about that, because there's another choice that we have decided would represent the team better. Take it away.
Damaso Garcia, that's
There
our
we
guy.
go.
Also a Yankee in this one, so shout out him. Damaso was a good player, man. 2 times he had a 300-plus average. He was 2-time All-Star, finished top 30 in MVP voting a couple of times. He was a good player. He wasn't really a power guy, but a really good player back in the 80s.
Yeah, did win the Silver
From
Slugger.
DDR.
Yeah, from the DR. Did win the Silver Slugger in 82 when he batted .310. Was top 5 in Rookie of the Year when he came up. Big part of the Jays' ascendance, like the everyday middle infielder when the Jays made their first run to the playoffs in 85 and nearly made the World Series. Main competition other than the guy you've already thought of, and some of you are getting mad at us for not putting down. Other than that, it's like Manny Lee, who just we didn't feel that was as good, and Manny was part shortstop at least. So it kind of felt like Damaso was the chalk pick here. Speaking of, because this segment's going to go long, so I don't even think we need to debate this. The shortstop's Tony Fernandez.
Yes,
it's not even close. I mean, it's not even close.
He was that dude.
Yeah. I don't think we need to
He's a
explain
dog.
why. If you need to know why, you should look him up. But he's by far the best shortstop in Jays history. Not even just
4 Gold Gloves.
Yeah. I mean, he was legitimately the best defender in the league at one point. So, unless it was Devon White in center. So yeah, let's move to third base.
Third base, it gets a little bit dicey as well.
does.
I go Edwin Encarnacion.
So I go Tony Batista. This is an interesting debate. This is where the positional stuff comes in. Edwin Encarnacion did play third for the Blue Jays, and at points in his career did hit better than Tony Bautista, or Bautista, not Bautista. Was that at the time he was playing third base? No, he was not.
I'm just going to go from a lens of the guy was a really great Blue Jay, and he played third base.
That's
what I'm doing. You can cringe at me if you want, Ben.
I'm thinking
that's what
I'll
doing.
let it happen because it makes a better team.
He was also like such a long time Blue Jay, like an 8-year Blue Jay. Like he was the heart and soul of like an era of the team.
He represents the team more. No, like Tony Batista was a good player, but he was on the team for longer. So fine, I'll let Edwin play third. Let's move to right field, where this one should be very easy because
not left field.
You want to go left? Let's go left.
I was just following the numbers.
Okay,
I guess we weren't because we went short.
We did first. Short. I was kind of circling, but
okay, let's go right field then. I don't care.
You want to go right? All right. Right fielder hitting just behind or just in front of Edwin, actually, in most of his lineups. It's Jose Bautista.
Yeah. That guy cranks homers.
He's one of the best Blue Jays of all time. I mean, there's little to debate about that. In the fact that he just has hit as many home runs really as anyone in a Blue Jay uniform. Had nearly 300 in his 10-year career, twice led the majors in homers, finished top 5 in MVP voting twice, top 10 4 times, was an all-star in 6 consecutive seasons and 3 times a Silver Slugger in the middle. I mean, he was an era of Blue Jays baseball, and he's from the Dominican Republic. So
Also had an unbeatable beard. Guy had a great beard.
Great beard. His bat flip is one of the more iconic moments in Blue Jays history, because it kind of, I mean, for baseball, it's an emblem for like an era in a way, you know?
I think
he's
so.
he's not the only guy, but like we're kind of in the bat flip era. And for a lot of people, like at the point Jose Bautista did what he did with that bat, it was the most ludicrous bat flip ever. And he's either that bat flip immediately came after probably the third biggest home run in Blue Jays history after Joe Carter's, and then the guy we didn't put at second base hit a big one in '92. So he's the right fielder. Shout out to Alex Rios, who at least got a search, but not good enough to really pass him here. All right, center. You want to say your center fielder?
Center field, Jose Cruz. How about it?
Jose Cruz is the guy.
He was a good player, man. Late 90s, early 2000s. Standout year was 2001. Had an 857 OPS, hit 34 homers, and stole 32 bags. 30-30 club for him. How about it? Jose Cruz is a great player. Was a J for 6 years. Switch hitter. How about it, man?
Yeah, won a Gold Glove in his career, although not with the Jays, but like obviously a pretty good defender.
The year after he left.
Yeah. Didn't spend his whole career in center, but he spent enough years as like the center fielder that it should count. Yeah. I mean, just a really good baseball player. Like center field's a little thinner than the corners. I really didn't find a contender for Jose Cruz.
Neither did I.
And kind of cool. He gets called Jose Cruz. He is like his dad was Jose Cruz, so he is kind of Jose Cruz Jr. And I saw the third Cruz play in the minors this year, Trey Cruz. So that'll be interesting. Maybe a future Blue Jay one day. But Jose Cruz, the center fielder. Left field for me was easy. The first man to ever win the MVP award as a Toronto Blue Jay, George Bell, is my left fielder, your 1987 most valuable player.
Had 134 ribbies that year and nearly 370 total bases. I mean, the dude, he was just a great, great player, George Bell. A guy that I don't think a lot of people talk about as much as they should. He was a great home run hitter, over 1,000 RBIs in his career, just barely, but still.
Yeah, I mean, he's like, it wasn't always, it wasn't a super long stretch, although from 84 to 90, he's driving in more than 85 runs, and he's hitting close to, if not way more than 20 homers every year. But like, if you just go like, how good is your good for some of these guys, like George Bell is really up there, with how
he was great.
Good was. And first Blue Jays MVP has to be acknowledged. George Bell from the Dominican Republic. Brother Juan played as well, not as successfully. But yeah, George is our left fielder, and that rounds up the team. I think if not for George Bell, like left field, Candy Maldonado, maybe Teoscar Hernandez. I know he's in right a lot of the time now, but he was in left for a while too, so maybe. But I feel pretty good about our team. Like, I don't really think there were any big whiffs. If there are, please let us know. But just to run through it before we rush through an Orioles preview, Juan Guzman was the pitcher. Alejandro Kirk was our catcher. Carlos Delgado at first. Damaso Garcia at second with Tony Fernandez. Edwin Encarnacion at third. Jose Bautista in right. Jose Cruz Jr. in center. And George Bell in left field. Audio listeners, ads. And we move on.
I was waiting for you to go now, but you never did.
I did not.
It's okay. Alrighty. That was a good team. I like our team. It was good. Okay, let's talk O's, man. I don't like the O's. I don't think anybody likes the O's right now in Blue Jay
I think a lot of people,
I used to like them.
Okay. I was going to say, I think a lot of people like the O's, but not in Blue Jay land.
Not in Blue Jay land. I liked them earlier this year when I thought they would be terrible, and now they're not. But I do like Adley Rutschman a lot, even though he's not my scary, but I'm just getting off track now. the O's and the Jays have had a little bit of a back and forth this year. At first, it was like the Jays just could not beat them, and it was just brutal. But last 10 games, it's been a little bit of a different story. Jays won the most recent game 4-1. They won that series, which is a 4-game set, took 3 out of 4. So that was impressive. They've actually won the last 4 out of the last 5 games they've played. So you'll take that. But, anything can happen when the Orioles are like an interesting team because not only do they have Ryan Mountcastle, who was like born and bred to kill the Blue Jays, but they also have Rougned Odor, who's like the emperor to Ryan Mountcastle's Darth Vader, if you will. That's what it's like.
Yeah, he is like, I used to do this a lot, and I can teach you how to get under their skin.
That being said, let's talk scaries. Mine is Rougned Odor. He has not played well this season. He has a 199 batting average, but his last 2 home runs are both against the Blue Jays. Only home runs he's hit since June. Thank you to the Ben Shulman database for that stat. And he has an 837 OPS against the Jays this year. That's crazy. And he's terrible. So he just turns on. He's like, all right, I'm awful, and everybody knows I'm awful, and I got a gross beard. But when I show up to play the Blue Jays, I'm Barry Bonds. Like, what? How does he do that?
And he broke up a fight last time, which worries me. Like, I didn't think that personal growth was there. So now he's capable of anything. My scary is Ryan Mountcastle, and I'm not going to explain why. Look it up.
All right.
If you really don't know by now, look it up. Just Google Ryan Mountcastle Blue Jays. Who's your hype train?
Yes.
I feel like you told me.
He's been my hype train the last 4 times.
Oh, yeah. Bo Bichette. It's Bo Bichette.
It's Bo, man. It's Bo Bichette. He's stupid good right now. He's red hot. Everybody freaking knows it. He has 31 hits this month. 31 hits this month. It's September 15th as of recording. Yeah. What? He's got 7 homers, 22 ribbies. He scored 16 runs. Like, the dude is offense.
7 homers this month is insane.
That's crazy.
He might have more homers this month than Aaron Judge will.
Going into tonight's game, his slugging percentage was exactly 1,000.
That's nuts.
He's so good. His OPS since the beginning of the month, it started at 737. It is now 806. He's so good.
Is that live? At one point today, he hit 8. Okay, because I think it's even higher. At one point today,
like
he hit 811 or something, but I think he dropped back down. Because he doubled and singled in the finale of the series too. Yeah, he's nuts. My hype train is a man who's been hype all year. It's Alek Manoah. We obviously saw the 8 shutty that he put on the Orioles last time. And he's just been really good against them all year. 2.92 ERA. Orioles are hitting below 200 against him. They one time they scored 3 runs off him. One time they scored 4, but they've never really solved him. And twice he has thrown lengthy scoreless performances against them. So Alek Manoah going to get the nod in the series in the finale, which is awesome because that's what he did last time and won the series. It's exactly where I want him to be. If they're putting a bullpen day out day 1 and they're putting Barrios out day 2, let's say they win one of those 2, all of a sudden you bring in the hammer and Alek Manoah wins the series.
Yeah, man. He's been the real deal all year long, and you got to be happy about that as a Jays fan who saw him be great last year, but you never know with young guys if it's going to stick, and it did. That guy is fantastic, and he's just been proving it just like nobody's business this season. 28 starts, 2.43 ERA, crazy numbers. And he'll go out there and he'll pitch a great game. All right, well, before we go, Bo's OPS live is 809, so I was almost there. But anyway, thanks for making Locked On Blue Jays your first listen today. Go make the second one Locked On MLB. MLB expert Paul Francis Sullivan brings humor, passion, and unique perspective on every team. and the biggest stories around the league. The number one daily league-wide podcast. Go follow it. Locked On MLB on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get podcasts. Ben and I will be back on Sunday to recap the series. We'll see you then.